Villains in modern anime aren't just characters, they're psychological case studies. They're reflections of human behavior, human trauma, and human identity. And the reason audiences connect with them so deeply is because their psychology feels real, not exaggerated, not symbolic, not cartoonish, but grounded in the same emotional patterns that shape real people. The first psychological trait that defines modern villains is the concept of fractured identity. Most villains don't start out wanting destruction or chaos. They start out wanting stability. They want a world that makes sense. They want a life that feels consistent. But something breaks that stability, a betrayal, a loss, a moment where their identity collapses. And instead of rebuilding themselves, they rebuild the world around them. They try to force the world to match the version of themselves they lost. This is why so many villains feel like they're fighting reality itself. They aren't trying to destroy the world. They're trying to restore the version of the world where they felt whole. Another core trait is emotional displacement. Villains rarely express their true emotions directly. Instead, they redirect them. Anger becomes ambition. Fear becomes control. Sadness becomes detachment. Loneliness becomes dominance. They take emotions they can't process and convert them into actions that feel powerful. This is why villains often appear calm, collected, or even confident. They aren't emotionless. They're overflowing with emotion, but they've learned to hide it behind purpose. A third psychological trait is moral inversion. Villains don't see themselves as wrong. They see themselves as necessary. They believe their actions serve a greater truth, even if that truth is painful. This isn't delusion, it's a coping mechanism. When someone feels powerless for too long, they begin to believe that extreme actions are justified. They convince themselves that morality is flexible, that justice is subjective, and that their perspective is the only one that matters. This inversion allows them to act without hesitation, because in their mind, they aren't crossing a line. They're correcting one. Another powerful trait is emotional isolation. Villains often feel disconnected from others long before they become antagonists. They feel misunderstood, overlooked, or ignored, and isolation changes how people think. It makes them question their value. It makes them question their place in the world. It makes them believe that no one will ever understand them. So when they finally choose a darker path, it doesn't feel like a transformation. It feels like acceptance. They embrace the identity the world pushed onto them. But the most important psychological trait of modern villains is emotional honesty. Heroes hide their doubts. Villains express them. Heroes pretend everything will be okay. Villains admit that things are broken. Heroes suppress their fear. Villains confront it. This honesty makes villains feel more human than heroes. It makes them relatable. It makes them believable. And it makes their emotional journey more compelling than any heroic arc. Villains resonate because they represent the parts of us we don't talk about. The frustration, the fear, the insecurity, the desire to be seen, the desire to be understood, the desire to have control over a world that feels unpredictable. When a villain speaks, they often say the things people think but never express, and that connection is powerful. Modern villain psychology isn't about evil, it's about humanity. It's about how pain shapes identity, how trauma shapes perspective, how isolation shapes behavior, and how honesty shapes connection. Villains aren't mirrors of darkness, they're mirrors of truth, and that's why audiences don't just watch them. They feel them, they understand them, and in some ways, they become them.